Hello, everyone. My name is Tiziana Marchante, Project Coordinator of Educational Content and Policy here at NACAC. We would like to welcome you to today's sessions, Tallo Equalizing Opportunities for Students While Giving Colleges Quality Applications. Joining us today is Charlotte Payton, Paul Culbertson, and Jennifer Kolb. As we begin today's program, we encourage you to submit questions throughout the webinar. To do so, simply type your question in the chat box on the bottom of your screen. We will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. The recording of this webinar will be available shortly after the conclusion of today's live event and will also be available on demand on our website for 1 year. Please note that all NACAC events are free from discrimination and harassment. NACAC reserves the right to remove any participant who violates this code. At this point, we'd like to begin the formal presentation by turning things over to Jennifer. Jennifer, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to be here. A huge moment of appreciation for NACAC for hosting us today and for all of you for attending this session. We've got a lot of information to share with you. And ultimately, our goal is that you walk away learning about new resources to use in your classroom, to use in your higher ed recruitment strategy, all with the goal leveling the playing field, equalizing opportunities for students, and having a candid conversation about diversity and equity and inclusion. So here's what we're going to dive into today. My name is Jennifer Kolb. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Tallo. And joining me are two of my colleagues, Charlotte Payton, who is our Secondary Education Partnership Specialist. Charlotte is a former educator herself. She's spent the past 8 years teaching English and publications at Battlefield High School. And then this most recent last 5 years, she's been in ed tech, working to help educators support their students through technology. And also joining us is our colleague, Paul Culbertson. And Paul is our higher education partnership specialist at Tallo. And Paul has over 10 years of experience in higher education. He brings a background of admissions and student services, formerly working at schools such as Central Penn College, Arizona State University, and East Stroudsburg University. So I'm not going to talk too much today, but hope just to facilitate the conversation a little bit. Charlotte and Paul are the ones who have been there, done that, if you will. They've been around the block in the higher education and secondary education space. So we're super excited to have them here with us today. Just to kind of set the stage for how we're going to flow through things. I'm going to kick us off. If you haven't heard of Tallo before, I'm just going to give you a little brief background on who we are and what we do. But then we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about statistics around what Gen Z and your students want you to know about diversity and inclusion. We're going to share some real data with you from our talent population. And then we're going to talk about applications of that. So how secondary education counselors can use this data to connect students to the right opportunities, and how higher education institutions can use this information to be more inclusive in their recruiting practices. So quickly, overview of Tallo. We're a digital ecosystem. So our technology brings together students, talent, employers, colleges, organizations, everyone together in a virtual hub. And within that virtual hub, based on students, where they're going, what they're doing, what they identify as their next step, our goal is to match them with scholarships, internships, college programs, jobs, apprenticeships, any kind of opportunity that's educational or career related. So ultimately just helping them find their interests, find their values, find their preferences, what drives them and motivates them, and get them on the right educational or career path based on that. So a little bit about our mission. We've been around for about 10 years now, and our mission is to level the playing field. So we believe everyone has a unique skill or ability, and regardless of geographic location or socioeconomic status, everyone deserves to have access to those opportunities. So I always like to show this slide just so you can see a little bit about the different kinds of partners we work with. So we work with educators, counselors in the classroom directly to help their students get onto Tallo, but we also partner with some of the largest student organizations to help get their students onto Tallo, recognize them with digital badges. They can promote their opportunities and their competitions. So some of these organizations I'm sure you're familiar with: Project Lead the Way, HOSA, FBLA, First, JAG, AVID. Second, in that next category below that, you'll see some of our college partners, right? And we're helping those colleges 2-year, 4-year certification training programs, helping them with recruiting. So helping them build their brand. Maybe they've got a new program they want to promote. Maybe you just have overall admission goals that you need to increase, right? So helping A, build your brand, and helping B, with that direct recruitment. And then always just sharing some of our company partners. So a lot of times when we're working with those companies, we kind of double dip, if you will, partner with the companies who partner with schools to recruit students into that full education path. But a lot of our company partners too, they're giving away scholarships. They have internships, they have work-based learning opportunities, job shadowing experience, mentorship programs. So we make sure we include everyone any step of the way, 13 all the way into the workforce. So you just have to be 13 to be one of our students using the technology. So a little bit about our population. Today, we have over 1.7 million students on Tallo in all 50 states. We started with 2 high schools and 150 students. You can see we have grown significantly over the past couple of years. We represent over 29,000 high schools and over 4,500 colleges. You can see some of the top career interests that our students represent: healthcare, STEM, business. And then we're sharing a little bit of that diversity breakdown. So over 40% of our entire talent population represents a racial or ethnic minority, and just over 50% of that population is female. So every day we're working to increase this number and help students find their passion. So that's a little insight into Tallo. Paul, Charlotte, they're going to spend the next kind of couple minutes here talking about Tallo and statistics and what our students have shared to help you in your own recruiting and placement practices. But before we do that, before we start rambling, we put together a video that we thought would be pretty impactful to share so you could actually hear from our students directly, right? It's one thing to hear all this information from us. We work for Tallo, right? But we thought it'd be really valuable and meaningful if you could hear from our students directly. So I'm going to pull up a quick video and play that for you all now.
My name is Pierre LaBroche. I'm a freshman at Stanford University. I plan to major in computer science or mechanical engineering and aspire to be a robotics engineer once I graduate.
Hi, my name is Ayush Saha. I'm currently at age 18 studying computer engineering in UC Davis, and my future goal is to become a computational neuroscientist.
My name is Leah, and I'm currently a freshman here at Williams College. While I was a senior in high school, I would regularly go on Tallo to find scholarships, and I actually got a couple of them.
Tallo also has a nice feature of allowing you to connect really nicely with scholarships and colleges that are interested in you, or allow you to reach out to them. Through messages, these schools and scholarships can directly contact you, and you'd get a notification about it through email, and you'd be able to apply to them and respond back to them. I chose to use Tallo because of the format of the Tallo website. It had a profile that you can create that was able to house and serve as a location for all your accomplishments, activities, and honors in one location, which allowed you to seamlessly transfer it over to a resume. And these resumes that I was able to use because of Tallo was used heavily in a lot of scholarships and colleges I applied to, one of them being the Gates Scholarship. The resume I created from Tallo also allowed me to have talking points that I used to jump off of during these interviews.
So I found this event in Tallo called the STEM Signing Day, and I applied for it, and I was accepted as an honoree. That event was affiliated with Boeing. Soon afterward, I was accepted into the Boeing mentorship program for undergraduate freshmen. I had the chance to connect with dozens of software engineers from Boeing and learn about technical skills and about real-world practical projects being done by Boeing. I was also awarded a scholarship for my efforts connecting with the Boeing engineers.
I initially started using Tallo as a method to find scholarships for college, but once I got into college and didn't really need it for scholarships anymore, it continued to prove incredibly useful. Now I've actually secured an internship because of information that I found on Tallo.
Tallo also allowed me to gain more confidence in my writing skills that I previously lacked right before I began university through a challenge called the Spotlight Challenge that had me create an article for the Tallo community. Through this challenge, I was able to practice my writing skills and become more at ease at sharing my writing with other people.
Tallo has made me confident in my career by showing me that corporate world dynamics and large companies are not just a faraway dream.
Once I got into college, I was able to actually work in New York City for a nonprofit because of an internship that I found on Tallo, and I continued to look at Tallo regularly, and I ended up securing another internship doing energy work for a pretty large energy company out here on the East Coast, which is going to be a really, really interesting introduction into a field of work that I really am interested in. So I've really used Tallo a lot, and it's been incredibly helpful in everything from applying to college, finding scholarships, finding internships, and other job opportunities. So thanks, Tallo.
All right. So just wanted to share that video before we dive in. At least for us at Tallo, that reminds us why we do what we do every day. It drives us in all of our work, and ultimately connecting those students with their next step is what we're here to do. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Charlotte. Like I mentioned, Charlotte oversees secondary education partnerships for us here at Tallo. So Charlotte, take it away.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you for joining us today. I know your schedules are busy, so we appreciate your time and devotion to this. We're going to start off with a poll. So this is my question for you. Do you talk to your students about diversity in their higher education search? I'm just going to give you guys all a moment to respond. Okay. So let's share that out. Interesting that 44% of you say that you are doing this already, which is amazing. Sometimes I know you guys have a lot of demands on your time, lots of topics to cover with your students. So certainly can appreciate that it's not always easy to get to that. So let's look at some of the information that we've gathered for you today. When we started planning this presentation for you, what we originally were planning to do was to provide a panel of college and high school counselors to talk about how they approached these things, what worked well, what didn't work well. You've seen that video of student testimonials, and we came to the conclusion that hearing from students what is important to them, what they're looking at as they consider colleges and pursuing their higher ed degrees, we wanted to share that with you, and that might help you form the way that you're interacting with your students. So we found that 49%, and sorry, one more thing, we did conduct this survey to all of our Tallo students, and 29,000 students responded to this. So we have a really nice sampling of student opinion here. So 49% of students say that they researched the diversity of professors and staff before applying. Of course, this is important to them, not just to see that diversity in the student body, but to also see it reflected in those individuals delivering their education and representing the university in various roles. So as counselors, how are you helping students uncover that information as they're discovering colleges and considering where they want to go? How are you helping them determine how important that factor is for them? And then, of course, as college counselors, what are you doing to portray your college and truly reflect authentically what your faculty and staff, how diverse they are? 71% of students say that they examine the diversity of the student body for applying. So it doesn't surprise me that many students are looking at this, but it does surprise me that this many, so 71%. And it tells us that this generation of students, whether they are a minority or not, want to see a diverse student body. They want to see diversity in their organizations, in their classrooms, depending on their major. So as high school counselors, showing your students where they can gather that information. If they already know their major, how can you look at that department and see the diversity in the student body? And we're going to help you with that a little later in the demonstration, how you can help students research that effectively. And 67% of students said that diversity, equity, inclusion, and which includes race, ethnicity, gender, religion, and age, is important when deciding where they attend. So they're not just interested as they're applying, like it's one of the factors. It's actually playing very heavily in their decision to attend the college or not. So once again, how are colleges portraying their student diversity? How are they supporting students and diverse student organizations? And as a high school counselor, how can you guide your students to really being able to measure that, evaluate it in colleges, and make a decision that's informed. And you guys said, 40% of you feel that you address this, while only 23% of respondents think their high school counselors are prepared to discuss diversity, equity, and inclusion differences in college environments. And that's not to say that you're not talking about it. Student perception is often very different from the reality, but it does make you or us all have to re-examine how we're having those conversations with students. How transparent and directly are we discussing it? And are we giving them the tools to make those decisions informed? So how do you get your students in Tallo, and how can Tallo help students find out more about the diversity of a campus and feel included and seen for who they are as a whole student? And then how can colleges use Tallo to make sure that they're getting the most diverse students to apply to their programs? This is the digital profile. Students can create it for free by going to our website, and it's their first opportunity to really showcase themselves and build their brand. On Tallo, they're more than a transcript, they're test scores and one essay. They are a whole student with artifacts that represent their student learning and growth from their freshman year through high school and into college and beyond. They can list their courses, certifications, work experience, extracurriculars, accomplishments, and even videos can be added to their profile. So you see that profile picture, there's a little icon. They can introduce themselves or share something that they've experienced or contributed that they really feel helps identify who they are as a whole student. So on the Tallo portfolio, or on Tallo, students can build an awesome digital portfolio. So I mentioned those artifacts before. Students can upload any kind of file. So if they have, they were in robotics and they have a video of their robot accomplishing some feat, they can post that on there and describe their contribution to it. If they're a musician, they can upload an audio clip of something they've written. They can upload pictures they've drawn, photos they've taken, films they've made, PowerPoints they've presented, essays they've written, letters of recommendations from mentors, anything that they feel really showcases who they are as a student, they can include. They'll also be able to share this out, and this is where the magic happens. This profile is searchable by our college partners, so they can come in and look for students. For instance, if you're an engineering school and you want more female engineers, you can start filtering for females who are looking to study engineering, and maybe they've even indicated that they want to study in your state. So now you have a very targeted audience that you can reach out to. Students can share this PDF or link with people who are outside of Tallo. So if they have a mentor who's helping them, or a parent who wants to see it, or another adult that they want to share it with, they can share it with them. That person does not have to be on Tallo in order to view this profile. And they can see those portfolio pieces as well. We also have the ability for students to earn verified digital badges. So those partners that Jen pointed out earlier in the presentation have the ability to create badges, and students can search through those and earn them. So You might have, for example, with BP, they have an environmental badge. A student has to upload a project they've done that's contributed to the environment, and they can earn that from BP. VAX First, those are all organizations that are using these badges to kind of reward students for being involved. Maybe it's volunteering hours, whichever way they want to use that, they can, and it will showcase these student accomplishments on their profile. It also motivates students as they're collecting these badges to do more, to be better, to achieve more. As a school or organization, you could also offer these badges. So it's not just limited to outside organizations, but a high school could award these as well. One example is my son went to an IT high school. When they graduate and walk across the stage, they earn one of 3 different medallions, a gold, silver, or bronze, based on the accomplishments they've had in high school. Wouldn't it be great to offer that as a digital badge that students can earn while they're still trying to find the right college? Post that on there, and now it's an earning they've had that can go well beyond just that moment on the stage. We also allow students to match with up to $20 billion in scholarships, and I'll talk through that a little bit more later in the presentation, but it does match through their profile. So a really well-developed profile will get them scholarships that they're really well qualified for. And then, of course, discovering and connecting with colleges. So colleges can search the students, but students can also search our college partner pages, and they can see what kinds of videos they're sharing, link out to different departments, anything that the college wants to show off to students, prospective students, they can do on that page. And then we also have an incredible job feed with 200,000 hiring companies, 3.5 million internships, apprenticeships, and job openings. And this is valuable in a variety of ways. First of all, you can see there that the student can post their career interest on their profile. So as they're looking for jobs, they can say, okay, if I match it to my career profile, what I want to do, now I can see what kinds of jobs are available today, what kinds of requirements those jobs have, what I could earn doing that, and make plans for their education dependent on that. They can also in real time look at internships, apprenticeships, and job openings that are available in their areas today. We all know that high school students are saving for college, and having those part-time jobs are very, very meaningful. They can find them there as well. So here is a way that we engage with students. Once we have the students on Tallo, we want to keep them coming back. It serves for them that they are exposed to more opportunities. Colleges are going to be able to interact with students who are active on Tallo, and then you as a school can also keep engaging with students so they're coming back to Tallo, keeping their profiles updated, and making the best use of all the opportunities. On the left-hand side, you have our closed network Tallo opportunities. So these are provided by our partners, so organizations and companies who are offering scholarships, events, mentorship programs, opportunities to volunteer. All of those things can be posted here. As a high school, you can also post opportunities here. So perhaps you have an internal internship that is local to your town and you only want it available to your students in your high school, you can post that here. Same with scholarships that are specific for your student body. Posting them on Tallo allows students to quickly apply for them, and you're not at risk for having students outside your high school apply for them. On the right-hand side, you'll see our Red Kite. So we have a partnership with Red Kite, and Red Kite is pulling data from the student profiles. It's gathering all the scholarship opportunities that it finds to be useful for the student, that the student is likely to win the scholarship. They can apply through Red Kite, and Red Kite will tally how many grants and scholarships the students have earned and how much more they need in order to meet the cost of the college that they're choosing to attend. Again, if you're interested at all in learning how your school can be using Tallo for these opportunities, make sure to contact me at the end. We also have the college search piece. So when students are investing in college, and this comes right back full circle to that first data point that I shared with the importance of diversity for students. So here's an opportunity for a university to showcase the diversity of programs on their campus, their faculty. You can have them visit the website, go directly to admissions. They can follow it as things are coming up for your program. Maybe you have events that you want these prospective students to attend. You can include them here as well, and students will get that notification.
Awesome. Charlotte, while before I pass it over to Paul, we had one question come in. How much does Tallo cost for the students?
It is free for students. So in all likelihood, you probably have students from your high school already on Tallo, and I'm happy to look that up for you if you're interested. The cost comes in from our partners, whether they're the organizations or companies and colleges. And then of course, if your school wants to host a profile where you can interact with students, there's a fee to that as well. And I'm happy to talk through that with you. Just shoot me an email.
Yeah. And just to elaborate on two quick things, which I should have mentioned in the beginning. One, you just have to be 13 to join Tallo. You never age out. You never hit a paywall as a student, right? So it is that portfolio that you can take with you through high school, through college, into the workforce, whatever that path looks like. And then it's a closed network. So our students are not talking to students, right? There are plenty of social media sites out there. This is a way for a student to tell a college or a company who they are, what they're passionate about, what they're doing, and remove the level of competition. So I'm not looking at Charlotte's profile saying, you know, she has a 3.5 GPA, so I want to I have a 3.6. So we kind of remove that level of competition, again, going back to that mission of just being an equalizer for students. And scholarships are so important in that too, right? Because we know historically the cost of a higher ed degree is something that's a roadblock for racial or ethnic minority students. And so every step of the way, we want to make sure that there's access to an abundance of scholarships so that we can break down that barrier into the four-year program. All right, Charlotte, you want to talk a little bit more about these engagement tools?
Absolutely. So this is the counselor view. If you were on Tallo, you would have the view of all the students. So this includes the students who are currently enrolled and your alumni. I know that there is a lot of importance in tracking some of those students after they leave your program as well. So on Tallo, if they've ever been associated with your school, they would show up in your student database. You can use filters to pull up specific groups of students and tag them. You can see here that we've tagged a couple of these kids based on the organizations they're part of. I can use the filters on the left to find the students I'm looking for, whether it's their activities, their college goals, their career goals, you know, any of those factors can be used. They can then be messaged from here or tagged from here. So this is a tool for you to alert students to different opportunities that have been posted. If you're trying to reach alumni students, you can do that through here as well. They'll get a notification on their profile as well as on their email. So they'll be sure to come back and check out the message. On the one more thing here, on that same little photograph, you can see the manage ops piece, and that's where you would be posting badges, internal scholarships, events you want your students to attend, perhaps internships. So all of that can be happening through the manage ops piece. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing a high-level overview of the data. So we at Tallo are big data nerds. We're constantly collecting information, not just on your students, but on the national, all the students who are enrolled. And we can share that stuff out with you. As you heard earlier today, the statistics about the survey we conducted. But here's your school specific information, and you can filter out your alumni and your current students. And you can see where students are planning on attending, which colleges they want to see or attend, which majors they're interested in, activities they're participating in, their demographics. If you're looking at alumni, you can see where those students have landed, where they're studying. So very good, valuable information here for you. And if there's ever anything specific you need, there's data points you need to track that aren't on this dashboard, you can work with your account manager to get those customized reports available for you as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlotte. Really appreciate you going through that. And definitely learning a lot as far as how to have those conversations and using technology to open up conversations with students. I think that messaging and guidance piece can be really valuable for counselors. Charlotte, stick with us. We might have some questions that come in for you, but now we'll go ahead and switch it over a little bit. So we heard how students and counselors can use Tallo to have those open conversations and what students are asking for, right? So Paul, like I mentioned, he oversees our higher education partnerships for Tallo, and I know he's got some data he wants to share with us too. So Paul, go ahead and take it away.
All right, very good. Thanks so much, Jen. It's really good to be here. I'm really excited to see such a good crew here with us as well. We do have a poll to start off with, so if we can get that poll up there. And it is, are you advertising or promoting your DE&I initiatives to recruit your incoming class? So just think about all those different ways that you could potentially do it, and what are you doing, and what partnerships do you have on your campus? So we're just going to give this a minute here, see a few more come in, and then we'll see what the results come back for. But I think this is going to be a crucial part when we look at the data that we're going to present to you, how vital it really can be to be able that we are doing these types of things. All right, so we're going to take a look here. And for the most part, looks like a good bit of you are, which is great. So about 62% right now is doing that. And some of you not quite yet, and that's okay. And that's the point of really today, is to kind of not only discover some new ideas, but just kind of hopefully generate some ideas that maybe we don't bring up necessarily today ourselves, but hopefully in this discussion, it'll generate those thoughts of where you could potentially go or what you could do in that situation. So just like Charlotte had presented all this amazing data, and it's kind of a weird compliment to be called a kind of a data nerd at Tallo, because I never thought myself as a data nerd, kind of more of an outgoing, talk to people, but I'll take the data piece because I love it. And that data that we looked at before with all those users that hopped on our platform to answer these questions, they're answering these questions to the ones I'm going to show you the results to. So let's take a look at that first one. So 81% of our students said that connecting with current students is the most effective way to understand a college or university's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, resources, and the environment. Now, I know a lot of schools out there are probably using orientation leaders, you're using student ambassadors, different other types of roles with those students on your campus, and that's great. My question is, what information is being shared with them to promote to those incoming students? You know, I think sometimes we focus on size of school, the majors, and all those things do matter, absolutely 100%. But it kind of even goes back to that last question that Charlotte had presented about that 20, I think it was 23, 20% that said that the students didn't think the counselors were maybe where they needed to be to understand those conversations, because they're tough conversations. So I would almost ask that same question here with 81% of the students saying they want to talk to the students. So make that conversation a two-way street with your students that you're bringing into the office, helping with those visits, helping with phone calls, or however you're doing it. In my time in higher education, I used to say it all the time. Like I spent so many years in it, I used to think that I was going to always have the answers, right? But truth be told, I'm 41 years old. So the older I get, the further I am from the age group of the students that I'm working with. Their age doesn't change. I get older. So I've got to listen to those students. I have to understand the needs and the wants and the benefits that they're looking for, because then I have to use the tools that I have to be able to shape those conversations to give to them to help with the students. So that's the one thing I would just kind of really think about with that piece of data is, what kind of conversations are you having with your current student population to be able to present that information and make sure you're listening to them as well. Next one, 64% said that diversity and inclusion ranks in the top 4 deciding factors after tuition cost, degrees offered, and location. I'm not so sure 15 years ago this would have been the top 4, quite honestly. We live in a very different society today, and I think it's a good thing, right? We're focusing on that diversity and inclusion of our students, of the people around us, everything that we do on a daily basis. So now we have to prepare ourselves knowing that right behind the door of those tuition costs that we mentioned before, that can be kind of a deterrent for a student, is the diversity and inclusion. So the messaging, everything we're talking about today, those things need to hit home in order to get those students to come to your campus. 78% of students said that diverse representation of students, the race, ethnicity, gender, religion, and age is the most important factor when thinking of diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion on a campus, followed by the diversity of the leadership. Now, I found this one really, really interesting because one of the places I used to work, it was almost kind of like the reverse in the sense of let's get the leadership in place because then the students are going to notice and then they're going to want to come to our school. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right, or you can determine how that looks from your perspective. But the students are basically telling us that diversity leadership, yeah, it's important, but maybe it's not as important as people in those positions think it is. So just things to think about on how diversity looks on your campus and what you can do to kind of bring it home to make the students more comfortable is going to be really important because it's not only in the classroom, but it's the clubs, the organizations, the programs, the events, everything that you do on a daily basis that's going to really drive that point home for them. 47% of students said they visit the college website for this information, while 35% said they use Google. Now, if you're like me, I got really excited and it's kind of a breath of fresh air when I saw this number because that means almost 80% are going to a website to find this information, which means TikTok, Snapchat, you don't have to actually do it. So that's a good thing, right? I remember sitting in many meetings and we sit there and say, should we be on Snapchat? Me and the 3 or 4 other directors on our team. And we're like, well, let's ask the students. And of course they want you on there because it's a fun thing to do. But is it giving them the information that they're looking for? It's a fun tool, but the students are showing us that they look at the websites, they go to Google of all places to be able to research the information to figure out about the diversity, equity initiatives on the campus that they're potentially going to. Now, with that being said, there's a bridge that you could potentially open up if it's not there already. Talking to the IT department on campus, talking to your supervisor to talk to the IT. Build those collaborations together to have these meaningful conversations. Take a look at your admissions site, take a look at your college website. Is the data that really shines on your campus to focus on these DE&I initiatives there? And if it is, great. If it's not where you think it should be or it could be, have that conversation. 58% of students said they would be more likely to apply to a college that had recruiters and materials that reflected an ethnically and racially diverse environment, and only 6% said that didn't matter. Now, I kind of hit on this one a little bit last bullet as well, in the sense of building those bridges between departments. I think most of us know, if you've worked in higher education, and really in most forms of education, silos is a big thing, right? Generally, it's hard to get out of that department style. You go to the big Christmas party or whatever it may be, the holiday party at work, and generally you sit with your team or whatever that looks like. Here's an opportunity to realize that going to your marketing people, so if you're in a big university, generally your admissions team will have their own marketing, that works out really, really well, right? If you're in a smaller school, generally you have to go across I always say across the bridge. When I worked at Central Penn College, we literally had a bridge on campus they brought in from the local area, and it's actually pretty cool. So I used to go across the bridge to go to the marketing department all the time to have the conversations and talk about the materials, because at the end of the day, I'm standing at a table and I'm going to hand this out to a student. I have to believe in what I'm giving them. So I have to make sure that the conversations that I'm having with those individuals, both the student and the marketing team, all line up together, and at least expressing my thoughts to see where we can go moving forward and listening. And then 58% of users said they would be interested in taking a course on diversity, equity, and inclusion in their current school. Now, I love this one. Back when I actually did admissions, one of the things that we were always encouraged to do was to go into the classroom, sit, listen, learn from the professors that are in those rooms. Not only because it was really good information, I never took criminal justice, so I got to sit in a couple really good classes, which actually I now have a lifelong friend of a professor that I used to work with all the time, but he'd always invite me to those classes to learn about that. So when I knew I was sitting down to interview a student that came into my office and they were interested in criminal justice, I had that firsthand knowledge about what exactly was going on. So my point being here is our students want to see those types of courses. So if you have them on your campus, get in there, check them out. See how vital and how important they can be for you, and then also for that recruiting strategy. One second.
You're
So-
better than me, Paul. You're sipping on water. I've got a nice cup of coffee.
I maybe coffee was this morning or tea or something. But, you know, how can you use this information? We were talking about some of those strategies here a couple of minutes ago, and I wanted to present this slide because I really like this information. Between the heat map that shows you where all of our diverse population really is on Tallo right now. As we said, we're in 50 states, we're all across the country. This really kind of gives you a good idea, a good blend of where we really are and the impact that we're trying to make with our students on a daily basis. So some of the things I really want you to consider, and I love this Albert Einstein quote, especially working in admissions, knowing sometimes it does get a little tedious to pick up the phone and make the phone call, make the phone call, make the phone call, or do the same thing you did yesterday or the year before. Excuse me. So insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I know today we are seeing a major enrollment decline across the board in colleges. So what can you do differently that's going to literally potentially get that student to take that step onto your campus? So promoting specific programs and including employer partnerships and messaging. So think about that return on investment and that job placement. When I worked in the higher ed realm, the ROI, the return on investment, was such a big part of the conversation literally every day. I had to fill out a 9 or 10 page form every time I did an event, whatever it may be, to talk about the ROI of that event and how it connected to the school. I'm not telling you to make a 9 or 10 page, excuse me, 9 or 10 page form here. But what I'm saying is, what partnerships do you have out there with different companies and career centers or whatever it may be that you can get into that messaging when you're reaching out to that population of students? So think about different ways that you can use your partners to get them into the door through the admissions, and again, break down some of those barriers and those walls between departments. The next one is to advertise the affordability and the scholarship options. Charlotte did a great job breaking down the scholarship opportunities that we have at Tallo. There is so much money out there. Students want to see the money to help them pay for school. They want to have the advantages and the opportunities to get into your school, but sometimes that cost is a huge barrier, as we saw it's in the top 4. So what can you do? Advertise it. Don't be direct with it. Let them know that it's out there for them to apply for. Directly communicate information about your DE&I programs and what's available. Excuse me, one more time. Sorry about that. So directly communicate information about DE&I programs. What are you doing on your campus right now that's very impactful and very successful? What are some programs that maybe you're getting off the ground? What are the programs that are getting off the ground that may only have a few students in it, but they really want the attention to help them promote what they're doing because they really believe in it? So think about those types of initiatives, those programs, those opportunities, those events, and be able to get that into your messaging as well. And then the final bonus tip here is just start thinking about next year. And quite honestly, I know some of you are. Think about the next year, and then think about the next year. Get ahead of the game. As we said at Tallo, our users hop on at the age of 13, and they literally have a life cycle on their own. So that means, quite honestly, you can start looking at talent as early as 13 on the platform just to kind of see what's out there for you to kind of get ahead of the curve that's hopefully going to come down the road for you all to be really, really successful in your recruiting efforts. And really quick, I just want to share with you, we just have a couple quick examples of some lettering that we do for our partners. When we do some outreach campaigns, we have some really great opportunities that we do. And certainly when I show you these, we're going to share these out with you afterwards as well. Feel free to reach out to me specifically if you have any questions or you'd like to see some of these types of letters that we do send out. But again, same time too, if you're bogged down on time, whatever it may be, feel free to reach out to me. Tallo is here to help you with your recruiting efforts. But let's take a look at these examples really quick. So starting on the left, this letter really focuses on percentages in the workforce, in the computer and mathematical jobs. Students today want direct messaging that says, this is the data that's showing the success of our program. So think about that when you're doing this. In the middle, we're really focusing on the diversity and increasing the racial and ethnic representation. And it literally says that talk about how diverse the school is. And then finally, the third one talks about the Hispanic, the Latino, the data that literally shows in that math degree program. So instead of being general, think about the very specifics, target a program. If you have a program that you're really trying to bring up or you're finding a lot of success in, that's where your efforts can really be. And you can find a lot of success in being more direct with your messaging daily.
Yeah, I think these are really good templates to use, and we're happy to share them out if you'd like to try to borrow some of this messaging. We have a lot of conversation with our partners about how clear to be. You know, if you're only targeting women for a program, right? Or if you're only targeting a certain racial or ethnic minority. And what we're finding is students really appreciate it, right? They appreciate you acknowledging why you reached out to them and why you're trying to recruit them for a program. And I think that transparency between a four-year university and a student really shows the value of you're investing, you're having a conversation, and you see them for them, right? You don't see them as part of an entire incoming class, but you see them for that student and who they are specifically. And that just pays off down the road when it comes to a student having multiple options, right? Multiple acceptance letters that they can choose. When they feel like you had that direct communication, that direct outreach with them, they're going to remember you. And you might just be the one that they pick. So we can definitely share these templates as they've worked well for some of our partners if you're interested in using them.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jen. Thanks for that little reprieve there. I'm slowly coming back from a sickness over the weekend, so I apologize for my coughing. But
I feel bad letting you continue on.
no, it's all good. I'm pulling through. I was like, I could feel it. I knew it was coming, but I kept pushing. So, but no, I appreciate that, because I think that's the one thing that we've noticed with our users on Tallo is they really appreciate that quality approach to having our partners reach out to them and having those specific pieces of information and saying, this is what we're really good at. So just think about that with that messaging. It's got to be different today. The generalization of approach doesn't connect as well as it used to, unfortunately. So you've got to find different avenues to bring in the recruits. So I'm really excited to share this slide too. We just completed the College Fair of the Year in February. We had over 46,000 matches. We had tremendous results, and a ton of our users came to this event. We invited the sophomores and the juniors, and I believe the seniors to this event, and that are still looking for schools to connect with. And as you can see, the diversity breakdown, almost 70% of those that attended are in that racial and ethnic minority category. And the part that really excites me when I look at this data, you take 40.6%, take 57.3%, and that interested in the maybe, that's the colleges that came to our event and said, yes, these students on Tallo, they're a pretty good fit for us. So we're really excited to connect with them, and that's what they were able to do. They spent that time and that day to connect with them, and hopefully getting them to enroll at their school as well. Shameless plug here. We have a part 2 of our College Fair of the Year coming up in August. I know that's a really busy time for many schools and colleges, but it's also a really prime time for those college fairs. I highly recommend, if you're interested in joining us, we'd love to have you there for sure. Feel free to reach out to me more specifically as well. I might be glad to set up a time to chat with you more about the event, what it looks like, how it works on a virtual sense. We're listening to our partners, we're listening to our users consistently on making sure that this experience is exactly what you all are looking for every time that we have one of our virtual college fairs. So, but yeah, take a look at that information, and please feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in being a part of that.
Perfect. So as we wrap up here, I know we're getting close to time. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Hopefully that our overview today gave you a little insight into what it is our students are looking for when it comes to recruiting, how you can use these resources at the high school level to help break down some barriers, have some open conversations with your students. And then for higher education, right? How you can tap into a network, tap into a qualified audience and start recruiting them into your programs. So I've put Charlotte's contact information as well as Paul's contact information here on the screen. I know we'd all certainly love to connect with you. And I see a couple of questions come in through the chat, so let me grab those really quick before we wrap up. How is Tallo able to have all of this data? Where does it come from? So all of the data that we shared today came from our users directly. So one of those first slides that we shared, we've got about 1.7 million students nationwide. And so as we are a sourcing and connection platform, oftentimes in order to be the best partner we can to our partners, we'll survey our students. And using that data, we can better inform our partners of how to recruit, how to have conversations, talk to them about what students need and what they're asking for. So all of the data we shared today came from us surveying our students directly. Another question, how often are you collecting the data? So we're collecting that data kind of on an as needed basis. A lot of times, right, our colleges will even want some new data that we might not have, and then we can go out and ask them too. So we kind of collect that on an as needed basis. We went out with that survey specifically for this presentation, so we could have some really good information to share with you guys today. So if you're a college or a university looking to understand perception of a program you have, or your just overall brand awareness for your school, we'd be happy to help with that. We definitely have some upcoming webinars. If anybody is going to be at NACAC, we'll be there in a couple of months or a couple of weeks. Gosh, time's flying by in April. So if anybody's going to NACAC, we'd love to meet with you in person there. But we also do host webinars pretty regularly. So feel free to email us, reach out. We'd love to connect. What are the age ranges of Tallo users, or the average age? Great question. So the average age, it's right now kind of a split of about 40% high school, 60% what we call workforce ready. So that's students that are actively in a 2-year, 4-year program looking for an opportunity in the workforce. So I mentioned this at the beginning, but when Tallo started, we only had 2 high schools and 150 high school students that we worked with. Today, 10 years later, right, we see that our population is continuing to stick with Tallo, staying engaged, because we're providing resources at every step of their pathway. So every day we're working to onboard new talent. We're bringing on about 2,000 to 3,000 new high school users a day. So every day we're working to increase that high school number, but we're also growing as a company with our user base as well. Thank you so much for all of these questions. I think everybody was holding them till the end, or I just didn't see them come in. Let me see if there are any others. Does Tallo reach international recruitment, or is it contained to the US? So right now we're just focused in the US. We do have students on Tallo that are not in the US, but our primary focus is US based colleges, universities, companies, programs for right now. But we do some work outside of the United States. Regarding scholarships, is student data captured for use on additional scholarship applications similar to the Common App, one application to apply to many scholarships? So how that works, John, thanks for that question, is everything that the students are putting in their Tallo portfolio is run through that huge $20 billion scholarship engine with Red Kite. So I think Charlotte showed a screenshot of a student will get an odometer kind of reading of how much money out of that 20 billion they're eligible for. And so as they start applying in multiple sources, right? Because from one button, they can view links that'll be in a bunch of different places. As they start applying and winning that money, they'll see that kind of increase. So we're kind of tracking that for them from a lot of different angles. So hopefully that answers your question there. Okay, I think I got them all. Thank you so much. I don't know, Paul or Charlotte, if you saw anything in the chat that I missed, please let me know. But I think we got them all. Thank you so much again, everyone, for attending, for your time. NACAC, thank you so much for hosting us. We really appreciate the opportunity to connect with everyone. And as we wrap, I'm gonna play a quick 30-second video to wrap us up. But I would like to remind everyone that if you want a copy of the presentation, maybe you're looking to use that data in conversations on campus, the slides will be available on the website as well as the recording. So thank you again, and I hope everybody has a great week.
I want to be a biomedical engineer.
I want to be a lead engineer in the aerospace defense industry.
And that's why I use Tallo. On Tallo, I can find internships,
Scholarships, the college of my dreams.
The company I've always wanted to work for. On Tallo, I found confidence,
Direction and an opportunity. On Tallo, I found a path to my dreams.